Today we're chatting with the incredible Samantha Sauer, an advocate, leader, and all-around rock star in the world of gastroparesis. Sam heads up G-PACT, a nonprofit that supports people living with digestive tract paralysis. Gastroparesis is a condition where the stomach doesn't empty properly, causing nausea, bloating, and other tough symptoms. And it's especially common in people with diabetes due to the nerve damage that can affect digestion. What started as a personal diagnosis turned into Sam's mission to educate, advocate, and connect a growing community. Right, I think everyone's in for a treat today, and I'm so excited to be here again. So Sam, thanks for joining us. And if you're cool with it, let's jump in. Please tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got involved with G-PACT.
So I think like most people, when you get involved with a disease specific organization, it's because you have the disease or you know somebody affected by the disease. So I was diagnosed with gastroparesis back, I think it was 2014, and G-PACT was the first search thing that comes up when you're looking for this new diagnosis that they just slapped on you. And I went to G-PACT for information and they really helped me. So I think around 2017 or so, I started as a volunteer, and a few years later, here I am sitting, leading the charge for our team in the organization. And it's been a really good year for us in growth and really trying to step our game up in the advocacy and awareness piece of what we do.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I think respectfully, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but I think you should give yourself a little more credit because you are absolutely crushing it in this space. I think what you're doing on social and how you're helping people is phenomenal. For anyone who didn't happen to be there, Sam invited me to the conference that G-PACT held, and it was just an incredible way to see this group of people come together to learn a little bit more, connect a little bit more. And I think that that's a really cool thing about organizations that are disease specific, right? They allow that connection.
Yeah. This year's conference was a lot of fun for me because not only did we have great speakers, but we also doubled our attendance, which was fantastic. And that's why we like to do it virtual, not just because planning an in-person conference is incredibly hard. So just prepare for that if you ever start thinking of going down that road. But it allows anybody anywhere to come in, and the speakers this year just were so informative and inspirational and wholesome. All the comments afterwards, people were like, I learned so much. This was so great. We want to do this again. You recorded it, right? I can watch this over again. And I think that everybody just really jived together this year. And it was really cool for me to see that, and the growth from the admin perspective to see that was really amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that something, at least in my opinion, that makes an organization so great is the connectivity of people. So if I were listening to this podcast right now and I did not necessarily have the context that you and I have, I would want to know who G-PACT serves best. So who might be interested in learning more about you, or who might be served by this organization?
So while I know that this is typically type 1 content, we do, because of the connection between gastroparesis and diabetes, we do have a lot of diabetics that are in our community. We also have people that just deal with unstable blood sugars too, because the gastroparesis community the way that food works in the body, it can cause some unstable blood sugars. So we have a very large array of people, but most digestive diseases that, hold on, can I pause? Sorry, I want to start over and fix that. Do you ever get on your tangent and then forget halfway through and go?
Every day. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to answer that over. So the community that we serve is mostly gastroparesis patients. We do support other patients in the digestive disease space. And our connection here with type 1 diabetes is that I don't want to say a lot because I don't know the actual numbers, but we do have quite a few type 1 diabetics in our space as well because of the connection between diabetes and gastroparesis. I am actually one of those connections that I have type 1 diabetes and gastroparesis. A lot of people, when I tell them that, especially like physicians and people who are understanding of these disease states, they're like, oh, did the diabetes cause your gastroparesis? And I'm actually very different in that I had gastroparesis first and the diabetes came second.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting too. Thank you for explaining a little bit of the overlap and the connection there. I think for anyone who's listening, that's a really interesting point to understand. And if we could take it a step further, could you explain a little bit more about what gastroparesis is in case anyone doesn't know?
Gastroparesis, the best way that I can explain it is just delayed stomach emptyings. Imagine your Thanksgiving meal. It's a big meal. You're enjoying everything. You're kind of like stuffing everything in there and you get really full and bloated, right? Like it's kind of uncomfortable. Imagine staying that way for days. It doesn't move, the bloating doesn't go down, like the pain doesn't go down, and that food is just sitting like a rock in your stomach. It might start moving slowly at just a slower rate. It might not move at all, depending on where you fall on that spectrum of the like level of emptying that you have. So our patient community is all over the place. We have some people who have very moderate or mild gastroparesis that can be kind of controlled by some like maybe nausea medications and maybe some lifestyle changes and like food modifications. And then we have other people that cannot eat at all. So we have everything from just a little bit to really nothing and everything in between.
And you know what? I think that right there is one of the, unfortunately, maybe I should say, one of the greatest reasons why I think that speaking the language of T1D also makes sense in the form of gastroparesis, or maybe for the purpose of gastroparesis. And it's because everyone is individual, everyone is so different, and you
Yes.
simply cannot expect anyone to act or anyone's body to react like anyone else's body. And so having that individualized, kind, considerate, empathetic approach is, I think, important in both, and especially when there is so much overlap.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even just for myself, like there's foods that I can eat some days and I can't eat them the next day, and I can't explain to you why. I can't understand that. And that actually goes for me for diabetes and gastroparesis. So putting them together, sometimes my insides of my body just doesn't know what to do. And because there's so much like in between and just there's so many different things that can happen. And the disease, I don't necessarily want to call it progressive because it doesn't progress from like mild to moderate to severe for everybody. But for a lot of people, or at least a lot of people in our community, it does progress. So as you're going through this entire process, everything has to change and you can't do what you did on Monday on Friday. It's not going to work for you anymore. So there's a lot of modifications that you have to do. And that comes with giving yourself and hopefully the people around you giving you a little bit of grace as you're trying to navigate through all of those modifications because it's not easy.
Or a lot of bit of grace. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, when you were saying that, I went into my brain. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot that you were talking about gastroparesis for a second." Because same for diabetes,
Mhm.
right? Type 1 diabetes is always there is a progressive aspect to it, but you're right. It's not like it's okay, in these years you'll do this, and then by this point you'll do that. It's individual. I have some
Yeah.
folks who have had T1D for 60 years, and honestly, sometimes I'm a little jealous, but only need 10 units of long acting insulin and have a carb ratio of 1 to 20. And I'm sitting over here like I'd need at least 30 long acting and a carb ratio of 1 to 6 or 7, right? So
Yeah.
everyone is so different, which is the potentially best and worst part about it, I guess. This is,
Yeah.
if someone gets it that everyone's different, that's probably the best. And then if someone doesn't get that everyone's different, sometimes it feels the worst. So maybe this is just my small slight soapbox. I'll get off in a second, promise. But if you feel like you've been treated unfairly or with a lack of empathy, or you feel like what they said did not apply to you, I just want to validate that here and there. You may be right. And I think the best way to figure that out is to continue to have those communications, those conversations, and to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know that in our group, that goes with like just trial and error with food. And again, like what works for me might work for you, but there's absolutely no guarantee that it will. And I think that when you can't eat and life is surrounded by food, like you cannot get away from that, right? And not everybody has the access to maybe the foods that they need or the like enteral nutrition that they need. As that happens, what works for me and what I'm going to tell you is going to work for me. You can't always just take my advice and like take a meal plan, right, from me and apply it to yourself. It doesn't work that way. And if it does, and if you do that and then it doesn't work, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like it doesn't work, but everybody wants that answer. And you can't blame them because you want to feel better. You don't want to trial and error. You don't want a stomach ache. You don't want to vomit. You don't want to throw up. So you want somebody to tell you exactly what to do in order to survive. And that answer doesn't exist, unfortunately, for either disease or
Yeah.
most diseases. But it's definitely hard here when it comes down to, I don't know what to eat and I don't want to starve to death.
Yeah. And that's actually something I tell a lot of the individuals I work with. I'm like, look, people either love this or hate this about me. You can have your own opinion. I fully support that. But
Mhm.
I am not going to treat you like a textbook. And that may be uncomfortable for folks who are not comfortable with just a direct answer, like having a little bit more of that wiggle room or the gray area. I leave a lot of room for that because I think it's unfair, right? Like for example, let's say I gave you a meal plan. Let's just play this out for a sec. And we're not even thinking T1D or gastroparesis. We're just thinking meal plan, right? What
No
if I gave
plan.
you a meal plan? And for breakfast, I told you to, hey, have like a peanut butter banana smoothie. And for lunch, maybe I said, hey, let's do like a Thai peanut salad kind of thing. And for dinner, I don't know, maybe we have leftovers from lunch or something like that. And then what if you were like, hey, Maddie, by the way, I have an allergy to peanuts? Oh my gosh, that's a very
Mhm.
classic and specific and easy example of how we know how individualization is so key,
Mhm.
right? So when people ask, "Hey, just give me a meal plan," I'm like we can figure one out, but it'll take more time than that. And they're like, "What do
Yeah.
you mean?" Like, "Well, how much do you eat? How much don't you eat? What do you like? What don't you like? Like, why would you choose this over that?" Like, I need to know those things. And I think
Yeah.
having that in our as a part of our working knowledge and then also in the providers we work with for T1D and GP, I feel like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it really does. And even just thinking about that, like with providers and like when you're going into your doctor's appointment, it's the same thing. Like you want an answer, you want that information, you want somebody to tell you exactly what to do to feel better. And there's so many pieces that go to that. And in that, not even just for me as the patient, but for the provider as well. I'm someone who went through probably like 8 different GI doctors until I found somebody that I was comfortable with and that I trusted in their expertise to really help me figure out what to do. Not tell me everything of what to do, but I had to trust in their expertise. But I also had to be a participating member in figuring out how to treat the disease. Because if I don't say, hey, that worked for me, or like a meal plan, like, hey, I really like chicken, so you would say, eat chicken. You wouldn't try to feed me beef, right? I mean, I have gastroparesis.
Exactly.
You wouldn't try to feed me beef anyway, but still, you wouldn't try to feed me something that I didn't like. That same thing applies to all aspects of care.
Absolutely. And I think if we could boil it down to maybe one summary word, collaboration.
100%.
Collaboration. I know we just talked about this the other day where I think we were texting about it or something. I don't know. But I have this video that went viral. And let me say, I love it, but also draining, right? Like it's like this
Hmm.
beautiful experience. But the intent of the video was to talk about this idea of collaboration. And I think that there's a big difference there. So I also maybe another soapboxy moment, but what Sam just said, I just want to pull that to highlight it real quick. So what she said is that she went to several different providers before she found the one that works for her. Okay, let's just be clear. That doesn't mean she's wrong. That doesn't mean she's broken. She did the work to find the person she aligns with, and that's phenomenal. And if anyone feels like you get one doctor and you're stuck with them, you are not. And I want you to take that to heart. If you feel like you have been invalidated, you're not being listened to, you're not being treated how you want to be treated, there are other options. And you, as best as you can, I encourage you to find those options, find the people you align with. And it's okay that you don't align with everyone. You have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That's
our community too is very different in the sense that we have more females than we do males. And I think that just the way that the dynamics kind of work in I can only speak on our Facebook group, right? Our support group. So I don't know what it's like in every single one, but we have more females and they're more likely to tell their story and to talk about things and to really get down in the nitty gritty of like what happened to them. And we hear so often that they go to a doctor and you're talking about your symptoms. Maybe you're not quite diagnosed yet, but you Googled your symptoms and this is where it brought you, right? We've all done that. And you're trying to figure things out, and the person just doesn't really want to listen to you. They don't want to hear what you're saying. They're not really listening to how this is affecting you. They're just kind of in the room, right? And if you're trying to say, I think something is wrong, if they're not in agreement with you and they don't want to help you, like you just said, you have every right to say, thank you for your time today. Do you recommend somebody else or go on your own to find somebody else? And that's a scary prospect too. But I think it's an important one for people to know that you're not stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll emphasize a kind and respectful delivery in your message, but absolutely, like go for it. And Sam, I know you do this already, but for anyone listening, I'm not telling you to yell at your doctor. They are doing their very best with what they can, and I want to respect and value that. But it's okay if we have differences. It is okay. And speaking of differences, I want to know, I know we've kind of already talked a little bit of symptoms, but I want to talk a little bit more about symptoms, maybe diabetes, maybe gastroparesis, maybe both. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what people can experience, or what a lot of people experience, but some people don't, or just any information you might want someone to hear?
Sure. So I know that my primary two symptoms in all the years that I've been diagnosed were like vomiting and nausea, which when you Google gastroparesis, those are your top two symptoms. A lot of people will experience the nausea without the vomiting. So some people get that delayed emptying, but their body just doesn't vomit, and they feel that bloating, everything moves through the system. And some people, most of us, myself included, do tend to have, I don't want to say progressive here either because they don't cause each other. But if you have gastroparesis, a lot of people tend to have slow motility all the way down your GI tract. So there's other issues that come when you have slow motility in the small intestines and the large intestines as well. And you can have some dangerous bowel obstructions if food gets caught somewhere. There's some people that really lose a lot of weight because you're unable to keep things down, or you're just unable to eat anything because it makes you so sick. Um, I think right now for me, my symptom, the most that I deal with is nausea. I kind of have like a base level that I deal with every day, and most people have a base level that you deal with every day. And it kind of just ebbs and flows as it goes. But when it flares, everything just wants to come up, come out, and just wreak havoc all over the place. But again, just like anything else, what that top symptom is, it varies even in my own timeline. But for most patients, the general symptoms are the vomiting, nausea, and bloating, but you're going to experience more or less of those, I think, at different times, depending on how much fiber was in the food that you ate, how much fat was in the food that you ate. Was it a complex carb, a simple carb? Like when we get down to that nitty gritty, like it actually really does make a difference of what's going in your stomach too, depending on the level and of how much you're going to digest and how you can digest, if at all.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think that's actually like one of the most perfect ways to also bring up the concept of T1D paired with perhaps a delayed gastric emptying, right? So what we have is we have these different things happening at all times. Now, we're not telling you have to become an expert and go to school for it and have a career in it or anything like that, but being an expert on your body is going to be one of the most advantageous things. So if you're okay with it, Sam, let's take this even more at nitty gritty. Let's get into T1D and gastroparesis and maybe what we could do. Oh, the fun stuff. I mean, we're biased, but we have fun, right?
Yeah.
So I think the thing that I'm curious about to kind of have a conversation with everyone listening is about that insulin management and gastroparesis, right? Because that's a challenging one. It's a tricky one. It takes time to learn.
I'm like, do we have to talk about it? Uh,
No, of course not. Maybe the basics, and I know we've talked about this many a time before. It's complex, right? It's confusing and overwhelming. It's a lot, and I think that's probably what you're talking about, right? It's a lot.
yeah. Yeah. And since I've gotten to know you too, like I've learned a lot from you, which has been great because there were things that but then when you take it a step further and talk to somebody who is an expert in the space or has expertise in this space, you're like, I thought I knew how that worked, but it works slightly differently than I thought. Or maybe there's a different approach that I can take to this. And one of the things that I want to mention, because I think for me, it was one of the most like game-changing moments in how I handle like my blood sugar and when I eat something, was to compensate for the fat and the protein after my meal. So when I was having a carb heavy meal that also had fat and protein, instinctively you look and you're like, okay, I need to bolus X amount of, units of insulin for X amount of carbs and I'm good. And I kept skyrocketing. Like, I don't need to tell you, you heard me complain about it. And I'm like, I weighed this. I know I gave the right amount of insulin for these carbs. And it was the fat and the protein of that like secondary bolus later. And for me, because I digest so much slower, one of the things that I had to learn the hard way, that is an incredible balance that is going to change day to day to day, and that you have to have just the knowledge that it's going to change every day, because that digestion moving so slow, you can give yourself insulin for what you're eating. If it doesn't move through your stomach, if you're not digesting it, you're going to cause a low for yourself. So I've been in a situation eating something, it does not move, and now my blood sugar is plummeting, and now I have to do something with this. I've got a rock sitting in my stomach. I need to get my blood sugar up. Like it's a scary situation. Thankfully, my way of handling blood sugars is much different now. My management has improved. So I don't experience that as often, but that delayed emptying and working against your insulin delivery and then having to accommodate the other two macros that we tend to forget about, it's so complicating. But in saying that, as frustrating, as complicating as it is, it's not like unfigure outable. Like there are ways around it, and you can have tips and tricks to manage yourself through those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mean, I know you already know, but we just we're filming the podcast related to that concept. So if anyone's unfamiliar, I have an entire guide that talks through this idea of the fat and protein and how it digests and the insulin timing. It's very complex. Forgive me for reaching over here, but I'm gonna grab it so that it can. Here we go. Okay. So people can see it. Gotta take the first cover off so you can actually see it. But this is what it looks like, just so you've seen it here. It is a 41-page guide on how to actually bolus for those delayed spikes. And this is not a guide specifically made for gastroparesis or anyone with digestive tract paralysis, but I do mention that in here in your honor. I actually thought of you when I was writing this guide. I was like, okay, I need to have a moment here. Basically, though, what I say is that some of the numbers and the timing can be a little different. And I think that that's individualization 101, right? We have to make sure that we are being specific to ourselves. But if this is something that you're struggling with, if you have gastroparesis and type 1 diabetes and you're not quite sure how to handle it, this guide is not 100% of everything you need, but it is so much closer than any other document has ever been, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Bias, yes,
100%.
but this is the strategy I've taught to so many people. And a lot of those people have had anything that has to do with the digestive tract, right? So I've had folks who have certain hormones are not produced, so that it messes with digestion, or again, digestive tract paralysis of some sort. If you need that support, if you're listening to this and you're like, that is exactly the thing I go through, what Sam said is exactly what I go through, get the guide. Get the guide. It's free. It's in a lot of spots on my website. If anyone needs it, we'll make sure it's linked. But it can be a game changer just to know those things. And I think that what this guide does too, without being just about the delayed spikes, is it teaches you how to critically think through blood sugar. And I think that that's what you were mentioning, Sam, right? You were saying you have to think about the timing, you have to think about the total, you have to think about the digestion. It's a lot and it can feel overwhelming, but with information like this, or people in your corner who can help educate you, guide you, and give you that support, I think it takes it from overwhelming to empowering. And I know, because I know that you personally told me a little bit about your journey with that, the delayed spikes that you were getting. And I know how freaking impressed and confident you felt with, like, oh my gosh, it worked. Look at this. Like, I remember that excitement that you had, because it's like, oh my gosh, like, good for you. Heck
I know, but if you want to see my graph,
heck yeah, I want to see your graph. Oh my god, are you flirting with me? Yeah, and those kinds of things make a difference. So maybe if anything, we're just saying, find that information and find your people.
yeah, I think that's so important, just having information. And with us, with G-PACT's perspective, like, that's something that we have been focusing on more this year. Like, not that it wasn't a focus before, but like, I've gotten hyper focused on getting people educated and getting people that information, because you can't make an educated decision about your care or what you need or what you want if you don't have the information in front of you. And that's what we're like, that supportive piece of that, because everybody needs friends, everybody needs support. Like, on our podcast, I want you to come on and feel like I'm your chronic illness bestie. Like, I'm going to, have a conversation with you. I hope you learn something and, just have fun with it. But we also have that educational, informational arm as well, where we want to give you that, because as much as like learning those different like tips and tricks was severely overwhelming in the beginning, and it was overwhelming mostly because I was struggling so much. It wasn't the information and it wasn't how to do things. It was like trying to learn in the midst of the chaos. But once I got through that and I learned what to do, all of that chaos calmed down. It's not 100%. Some days I'm like, I gave you that second bolus and you didn't listen to me. But sometimes diabetes, just diabetes, and it is what it is, but I don't panic over it anymore. The anxiety is down. And that's what everything that you have discussed, all of those things, that's what you gave me, was the confidence to be able to take care of myself and to lower my anxiety and my husband's anxiety over my blood sugars and trying to figure things out. So definitely recommend anybody get that guide, because it was a huge game changer. And I'm not just saying that. I really mean that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so nice. Yeah. And I think that, again, like, find the people that speak your language, grab this guide. And if it doesn't speak your language, first of all, please call me out and let me know. I am not afraid of criticism. Like, you have something to say. If you deliver it in a compliment sandwich, I mean, I love that, but like, I can take it, bring it on. My goal is to be helpful and educational. So if this doesn't do it for you, then let me know, right? You'll help someone else. And I think that's maybe a big point too, is in any case, right? Speaking up, advocating, finding those gaps or those things that we have to fill in. That makes the difference in these spaces, whether it's diabetes, whether it's gastroparesis. We have to articulate ourselves. And sometimes that's hard to do. Like, previous Maddie, she cried if anyone called her out for diabetes, anything. And even if they were like, oh, what's on your arm? I was like, it's a CGM, I had diabetes, right? Like, I used to feel that way. But now, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, you can't see my CGM. You're not going to know I'm diabetic. What are we going to do about that? So very different mindset. It takes time,
Yeah.
right? It takes time and it takes a little bit of self-confidence.
Yeah.
I love that. You have provided such fantastic tips. And I'm curious now, let me just preface my question. I know you know, but for anyone listening, uh, we are all individual. If you haven't learned that by this point, now you know. Okay. We're all individual. My next question for you is when it comes to having that stable glucose level with T1D and potentially digestive tract paralysis of some sort, do you have any tips? This can just be personal. Remember, everyone, we're not giving medical specific advice. We're just talking about our experiences here. But is there anything you've learned that you wish you would have known earlier?
Ask for help. To be completely honest, like the top thing is ask for help and you don't have to do it alone. Like I think learning about macros and like just what they are and that does go beyond carbs and asking somebody to help you understand that is probably my best advice. And I know you know this already, but this happened to me before I was a diabetic that I went to a dietitian to help me with my digestive symptoms and she handed me a book geared toward diabetics on carb counting. That was the extent of the knowledge that I was given. So again, if you're in a situation like that and it's not working for you, it's very much okay to say thank you for your time and move on to find somebody else. But to really find somebody to help you with that trial and error because there is so much trial and error and that can be exhausting. It can be like horrible for you physically and mentally between the delayed issues, maybe the vomiting or nausea, like adding that on, causing a flare, all of those things can compile into you not wanting to do anything for yourself. But if you've reached out and asked somebody for help, whether it's a doctor, whether it's somebody in a group, whether it's doing your own search, looking for a dietitian or somebody who specializes in that, just ask for help sooner rather than later. Not like me waiting until you're so frustrated with your blood sugars and nothing is working and you're just pissed off about them all the time and you're feeling incredibly anxious over them all the time and you're constantly staring at your CGM, looking at your blood sugars like every 5 minutes when it changes. Don't let yourself get there. Ask for help sooner.
Yeah. Oh, and you brought up CGMs. I want to ask something about that too, but I just want to add one point to what you were saying.
Mm.
If you've ever gone to a doctor's appointment and you felt like they weren't giving you a little bit of flexibility. For example, a very basic example that a lot of people might know here, the classic rule is that we should pre-bolus 15 minutes. What that means is to take our insulin 15 minutes before a meal. Now, I think those of us here right now, we know that 15-minute pre-bolus is sometimes, I know you already know, is not always the best recommendation, right? Because what if it causes us to go low? We need to change it. What if it's not enough? Sometimes it's not enough for me. Sometimes I actually have to lengthen it. Oh my gosh, well, what if we have an ultra fast acting insulin that starts working in 2 minutes instead of in 15 minutes? That has to change as well. So I think I'm just gently giving permission. If it doesn't work, do something about it, fix it, change it. If you keep going low, ask why. If you keep going high, ask why. Backtrack in your head, use the data, use the numbers, and see what you can figure out. Yeah, and I think the data and the numbers, that was my CGM comment. I think that that's pretty helpful. What are your thoughts on using CGMs and or insulin pumps when it comes to T1D, gastroparesis, all of the above?
So I have a love-hate with my CGM. I think every diabetic will say probably the same thing. But currently I use the Dexcom G6 connected to the Omnipod 5. So I'm on a tubeless insulin pump. And when I first started, I was on the T-Slim. I don't know like what one it was at this point. It was so long ago. But it look like that. But it has the tube, right? Which at the time I didn't mind it. I kind of was used to it. But at some point in my not my diagnosis journey, but just in the illness journey, I ended up on a feeding tube. Now you're connected to something there. I also have a central line and required IV medication every night overnight for 10 hours. So at this point, I've got IV tubes here. I've got other tubes here. I was like, get me off of a tubed pump. And I've been on the Omnipod since. So for me, that worked. I know other people tend to find it bulky. I've complained to you about how bulky it is when I have to move it around in some places. But for me, it's what worked. And it's a system that I liked. The automated piece of that with the connection of the blood sugars and having the pump once you've programmed your numbers in and having that kind of decide the insulin for you. That took a little while once I started on the system for it to learn, what I was doing when I ate and to learn my patterns. But once it learns those patterns, it was easier to work around. And I felt like I was getting better numbers than when I was doing things manually. But again, sometimes you got to switch things over. Things don't connect. But I personally love having it. And my husband can see my blood sugar. So sometimes in the middle of the day, I get a text that says, "Hey, do you see your blood sugar?" I'm like, I am eating a snack. Leave me alone. But I appreciate the check-in because the people around me can make sure that I'm okay too.
Yeah, and having that support, by the way, I just think is so incredible. The fact that you have a human that loves you so much that they're willing to also get the CGM alarms is, we all understand a little bit of that buzzer fatigue, that alarm fatigue. It's
Yeah.
pretty legit sometimes, especially if our blood sugar's whack, right? Like your blood
Yeah.
sugar's been high for the last 2 hours. How many alarms did you get? Like we get
Mhm.
it, right? Especially if it's also connected to a watch and
Yeah.
a pump and a phone, and then all of a sudden your AirPods are in, and then someone is trying to call you, like, "Oh, what is happening?" Right? It becomes a lot. It's overwhelming, but I think that I don't know, that's a great point to make. And if I may add a point too on CGMs, my plug for it, especially when I think about the guide here, is I love the CGM because of the data. Yes, it can be overwhelming. Yes, it can be exhausting. But if you're able to have data, you're able to figure it out. The interpretation is something that I think can be difficult, but also can be pretty straightforward. So I always talk about it like, okay, if your blood sugar started here and you ended back there, great. If your sugar started wherever it was and then it went high, okay, well, why? And if you started wherever you started and you went low, okay, why? And we can grab that data, especially if it's paired with the insulin and the macros, all of it together, and then we can start to make sense of things, whether that's with a supporter or by ourselves sometimes. That's what I did. That's why I'm here, is because I did it for myself, and I don't think we should have to do it alone.
It's funny. I think I was diagnosed in 2014. So I'll say a late bloomer. I guess I was 24 when I was diagnosed. And I had a CGM right away that they gave me and then put me on a pump later because my blood sugars were so unstable immediately that they were like, we need to get you on a CGM. Knowing what I know now and being on a CGM for over a decade, I don't know how anyone survived without knowing what their blood sugar was all the time. Like I'm no longer attached like to the numbers where I have to check it constantly. I check it just around like meals and occasionally if I'm like, "Hey, what am I at?" I don't have that anxiety to watch it all the time, but the thought that there would be a time or there were people that figured out how to do diabetes and survive without a CGM, like y'all need an award because I don't know how you did it. I can barely do it. And I've got all the tools, the tips, the tricks, the internet, friends, like I've got all of it in my hands and I'm still like, I don't know what to do with this. So I don't know how you guys did it before that.
Oh yeah, I got on a CGM similar to when you did, I guess, but I had diabetes for years at that point, and I have no clue how I survived. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so grateful to live this life I'm living. But like, I don't know how Maddie did it, but I mean, she survived. I don't know what my poor mom's. I don't know how many grays I gave her. Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I love you. You're the best mom in the whole wide world. She really is superwoman, but yeah, it's really awesome to have that understanding. That's actually everything that changed the game for me too. As soon as I
Yeah.
got a CGM, I was able to really understand what's happening for blood sugar.
Mhm.
So I think with that being said, my another thought I have is for those who are impacted, right? So those who are listening and they're like, wow, me. and they raised their hand, right? What kinds of support does G-PACT offer right now? I know you said you've been pushing education, which is awesome.
Mhm. So right now, our website is slightly under construction. It doesn't say under construction when you go, but we've got not as updated information there. So I do want to preface this to say that our socials are the best place to get new information and updated information. So one of the things that we started doing, it's been about a year, is a monthly support group. So virtually, we all kind of meet, get together, share stories, swap stories. It's a place you can vent. You can be on camera, you could be off camera, you can say something, you can lurk in the shadows. Like, we don't care. If you want to come here and just listen to people like all kind of hanging out, we do that once a month. We have one also for people on TPN and enteral nutrition as well, because as much as they are always welcome in the other group, sometimes there's more specific like questions and issues that are only understood with the people who are obviously, dealing with that. Um, but what we've been doing is trying to grow some programs, and we have a couple things coming. We soft launched it, so I don't want to give away all the secrets yet. But next month it'll be, I'll say, our hard launch. I'm hoping to do that to get our educational, like, off social media, off our website program, where you can find information about how to track your symptoms, preparing for doctor's appointments, tracking your medications, things like that. So we're really excited to be able to provide this and continue to add to that. We do try to keep up with like news as well. Within the last month or so, the AGA had put out some new guidelines on treating gastroparesis, and they welcomed the public to, have comments about that. And in our very niche area, in our very like GI worlds, that kind of like blew up. Like, that went viral in our tiny little world, where everybody had an opinion, everybody had something to say. And if you're looking for that information, or you're like, what's happening in clinical trials, or, what are some new medications that are happening? Does anybody care about us? Is there research going on? We want to make sure that we're getting that information out to the public. So that's another piece of things that we're trying to educate people on, is not just how to treat the disease and not what is gastroparesis, but all the things that surround it and the new treatments that are coming up. We will have some webinars coming up in the next few months as well, along with the yearly conference, to provide that information, and the podcast as well. So there's a couple other things in the works, but like I said, I don't want to give all my secrets away too soon, but they are coming.
That's okay. You don't have to give the secrets away. I just think that people have to find you, right? They want to be on the nose, so you have to pay attention. So, and maybe that goes too for supporters, right? Because I think that obviously people who directly live with these diseases, these conditions, they're going to absolutely get some benefit. If I know anything about how Sam's brain works, folks, these documents, if she has any hand in them, they're going to be fan-freaking-tastic. They're going to be phenomenal. They're going to be so thorough. They're going to be very well thought through. So you definitely should be actively paying attention and watching for those things. I guess my last question, it's supporters, or even if someone doesn't have gastroparesis or T1D, with G-PACT's mission in mind, how could people support G-PACT's mission, gastroparesis, everything in the world of digestive tract paralysis? How could they be more supportive? What would you wish they do?
Well, I would say just for G-PACT specifically, like for us to get our information or anything that we're sharing that's educational out there, like the very typical like, share, comment, on socials actually goes a lot further than people think it does. I used to hear people say that. I'm like, yeah, okay. But now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, I'm like, no, that actually does mean a lot. But even just, visiting our website, we're a nonprofit, so we will always welcome and say thank you to any donations that come our way that keep us operational. We're volunteer run. None of us are paid. We do this because this is just what we want to do, and we want to be here and try to change the world, better the world, all the patient advocate things that we all kind of feel in our like passion projects here. But I think one of the biggest things getting to the community is just to be patient with the people going through their diagnostic journey who are trying to handle something. Like, there are days that I still can't really do very much. And my husband is so patient with me, and God bless him. Like, some days I'm like, I don't know why you put up with this. But I think having the people around you just try to understand the disease, you can come to our website. The information there, even though we are updating things, it is still accurate. Learn about the disease, maybe talk about some recipes. Maybe if you like to cook, you could talk to somebody and say, how can we modify a recipe for you? I can tell you that years ago, when I really struggled to eat, when people were like, what can you eat when going to a function? Or what can I provide for you so you're not sitting there bitter and angry watching everyone eat pizza, just growing more bitter by the moment? That's not my experience or anything, but but I think really trying to just acknowledge that this is a difficult journey and to offer something to that person. And the kindness that I got from people who wanted to provide something and make me feel comfortable at their social event. I can't tell you, just as a patient and especially as a gastroparesis patient, how much that really meant to me. And I know that for others, I think that'd be meaningful too.
Thank you. I think that's so phenomenal. Yeah, that intentionality, that thoughtfulness, it does make a difference. It does go a long way. So thank you for saying that. And I know today we've spent a lot of time talking about digestive tracts and talking about pancreases, but I just have to say too, like, thank you for having the heart that you do. We need people in this space that have the thoughts, the feelings, the intentions that you do. And so the fact that you are taking on so much to benefit so many people is, I don't think anyone could say enough of a thank you to truly, truly cover it all. But thank you.
Making me blush over here. Like, I'm on camera. Come on.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Oh, no, seriously, you are crushing it. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited for this, the fact that people get to learn about this today. I hope it's been insightful. I hope it's been helpful. If anyone needs anything, we'll make sure all of the details are in the description of this episode. But for now, that's all we've got. So Sam, again, thank you. That's it for today, my friends, but the fun doesn't stop here. If you liked this episode and want more real talk diabetes support, come hang out with me on social. Just search Type 1 Type Fun, all words, or head to type1typefun.com for tools, tips, freebies, and real life resources you can actually use. And if this episode made you laugh, learn, or feel a little more seen, feel free to leave a comment, give it a like, share it with someone you love. But until next time, live empowered, be silly, have fun, and eat some carbs.